Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I spent the last 2+ decades of my life. I'm wrapping up the Atwater series. Before I do that, I just want to give you a little flashback to all these different things that go on in the penitentiary. The story I'm about to share with you today happened before my time. I entered the system in 1998, and this incident that I'm discussing today happened in 1998. It was between the Texas EME and the Latin Kings. I think it was in Leavenworth when this happened. But before I start the story, I had a couple people hit me up or hit my peoples up about me because they've seen me on YouTube or whatever, sharing certain stories that they feel that I shouldn't be sharing. And questioning, who gave me the green light or whatnot to share these certain things. Or that they think that I'm exposing certain politics and names and stuff that I shouldn't be. Well, I think I've touched on this subject before already. Everything that I touch on here is things that already been through the courts. These names that I put in here, they've already caught cases. The feds already know about them. The incidents on the yard already happened. It's been rectified or settled. And furthermore, these couple individuals that were questioning what I was doing on here, when that was brought to my attention, I referred them to their people. And what I got back from them was, yeah, I'm good. So, continuing when I tell stories about everything, I just want to make sure that everybody has an understanding that I share these stories with you guys about these individuals is always from a place of respect. Yeah, I'm privy to some information, to some politics or some things that's ongoings that I don't share with you because I know I shouldn't. I've never been told, never been banned not to share certain things with anybody, especially, making videos or anything. But I've carried myself a certain way my whole life, at least my whole penitentiary life. And now that I'm home, I'm going to continue to carry myself that way. So I know there's certain things that shouldn't be shared. And those things are not going to be shared. If there's certain names, certain ongoing cases that are happening right now at this time that I've been privy to, but if I share it, it's going to damage somebody or it's going to be harmful to these people that I know, I'm not going to share with you because the stories that I tell you, these are stories of my friends. These are stories of people that I literally grew up with. I've been in the system since I was 18 years old. I first entered the feds in 1996. I got out in 98 for 6 months. That's when I caught the 26 years. And I just came home August 2022. So the stories that I share with you are the people that I've interacted with, that I've built rapport with, that I have respect for, love for, and the last thing that I'm ever going to do is be on here to harm somebody with the stories that I'm sharing. Now, that being said, if I'm sharing a story and the character in that story happens to be a buster, I don't have no problem putting his name out there. So, in this story that I'm about to share with you is between the Texas EME and the Latin Kings. And before I shared this story, I got permission from a certain individual that I'm not going to leave the name out, but we were friends and we're still friends and we've been friends for over 20 years. And he's part of this gang. They don't call him a gang anymore as far as where, let's say, me, for example, I'm from a gang out here. To them, I'm considered a low-level street gang. where they are a family. They're made men that's been sanctioned and been dubbed, whatever, been given certain statures. But through the course of my bid, I become their equal as opposed to a peer and a friend, as opposed to respect level. Because even though I don't have a patch on my neck or a brand tattooed on me from one of these organizations, I've conducted myself accordingly. And the only reason that I'm not a member of any of these organizations is because I declined at a certain point in time when I was being recruited. And the reason I declined is not having anything to do with them. It's just I have so many friends from different aspects of life. From all the penitentiaries that I've been to, I've been able to build rapport and relationships with people that are from different part of the country, different gang, different races, and these people might not like each other. So if I box myself in by becoming a member of these certain things, then it limits my reach, it limits my relationship. But also, the things that they're doing, regardless of my opinion, it's not whether I agree or disagree with it, it's just not what I'm trying to be. My evolution as far as coming home is hopefully helping people find a better way to make a living. Because at the end of the day, all this stuff is the things that they do, the business that these families control or whatever, is financial. It's for not financial means for them and their family and so on and so forth. So without further ado, back in 1998, the Latin Kings and Texas EME got into it. And it was a bloody war. How it started out was there was this Nieta dude. Now you guys know there's a difference between Latin Kings and Nietas. Nietas is their own organization, it's their own gang. Well, my partner, my buddy at the time, he just came out of the SHU. He just spent 6 months in the SHU. And when he came out, he had put in some work to earn his patch to become a member of the Texas EME. So when he came out, he was rewarded with certain titles and certain status. And at the time, he was in charge of their bank and their loan sharking business. So they had this Nieta dude come over there. The Nieta dude was an addict. So he came over there with his fat ass gold chain and wanted to pawn it off to my homeboy because my homeboy is loan sharking books. Now the gold chain is probably worth a couple $1,000s. At the time of the incident, the Nieta wanted 100 books for it. Now 100 books back in 1998, each book were valued at about $6. So that's about $600. But the homie went and asked his higher ups about the proposition that was presented to him by his Nieta. And his homeboy said, nah, don't give him the 100 books. Just offer him 30 and tell him have 14 days to give it back, with plus the interest. So the homie went back. The homie told the Nieta dude that he's not going to give him 100 books, that he'll give him 30. But the Nieta didn't like the deal, and Nieta left. But just a few hours later, the Nieta came back and accepted the deal. The deal was 30 books plus interest for 14 days. Now, before the homie gave it to him, he told him, you got 14 days from this time. So once that hand hit that hour, this necklace is no longer yours. They shook hand, they agreed to all the terms. But the homie know that the Nieta is not going to come back with those books, because he's an addict. And once addicts pawn stuff, they're not coming back with anything. I've been in the same situation where when I was in Lompoc, I had a pawn shop. For a period of time, I had about 10 radios in my box, had about 4 or 5 wedding bands, countless watches, and a couple gold chain. It's just the nature of the beast. When somebody comes and pawns something to you, 7, 8 out of 10 times, they're not coming back for it. So anyway, but you know, they're in the business of loan sharking, just like in real estate banks. They're in the business of making loans. They're going to give you the loan to go buy the house. They want you to make that loan, make that mortgage payment every month. They don't want to have to go back and repo that house from you. So loan sharking, excuse me, is the same type of business. They don't want to accumulate a bunch of property, a bunch of stuff. They want the money that they're flipping, you know. And in the penitentiary, the interest rate is pretty high. It's 50 cents on the dollar. If you go borrow 10 books from somebody, you're paying them back 15 books. It's been like that since I've been in the penitentiary. It's like that when I left the penitentiary. It's 50 cents on the dollar. If you borrow $1 from somebody, you're paying them back $1.50. So before you go and ask for a loan, before you go to a loan shark in the penitentiary, make sure you're able to pay it. Because just like the banks, just like anybody else, when it comes to money, everybody wants theirs. So anyway, of course, the 14 days come, and then yet the dude didn't have the 30 books plus the interest to get the necklace back. So the homies, they don't want the necklace. They want the money for it. So they sold it to one of their brothers who paid him $500 for the necklace. So they gave the book, they got the necklace for 30 books, which is equivalent to 30 books times 5 times 6, $180, $150, $180. So they already made like $300 off the deal already from one of their brothers. Now the brother they sold it to was Quezida. Quezida worked in the kitchen in a butcher shop. Well, over there in Leavenworth, back then, they had a movie theater just like Lompoc. It was on a Friday, and everybody went to the movie theaters. But Quezida was working in the kitchen and got off and came to the unit. Well, when he came in the unit, you know, he got that gold chain on. So when he got the gold chain on, about 4 or 5 Latin kings rolled up on him and surrounded him, saying, "Hey, man, hey, that's our necklace." And Quezida, "Hell nah, I bought this." He goes, "Yeah, but somebody stole it from us." So what turned out, that Nieta dude was good friend with one of the Latin king that he ended up stealing the necklace from and selling it to the EME. But the way the Latin king approached dude, Quezida, was kind of aggressive. So when you approach somebody in an aggressive manner, their first response is to be defensive and to return their aggression. Because these individuals that are made, these individuals that are patched up or part of these families, they had to go through a lot of changes to become members. So already they're of a certain echelon of individuals that are not scared of confrontations, individuals that are prone to violence and don't have a problem with it. You know, so Quezis, and so Latin King's like, "Yeah, well, that's our necklace, somebody stole it, and that's how you end up with it." He goes, "All right, you guys can buy it back." And like, "Yeah, we'll buy it back." He told the Latin King that he'll buy it back. I mean, the Latin Kings told him that they would buy it back. But Quezis told him, "Yeah, you can buy it back for 1,000 books. You know, he put that number out there because, one, he was already, you know, a little upset that these guys approached him aggressively. But also, he know they're not going to come up with 1,000 books to get this necklace that's not worth 1,000 books. So really, he's trying to tell him, in a sense, fuck you. And the Latin King knew that too, that this dude just threw a number out there, a number that was outrageous, just because it's what it is. So he's like, "Hey man, I just got off of work. I'm trying to shower." But the Latin Kings followed him and kept trying to talk to him about the necklace. But Quezida didn't want to have no more of the conversation. So he burned off, brushed him off, went into his cell. Well, while he went into his cell, the 4 or 5 Latin Kings followed him into his cell and started stabbing him up. You know, lucky for Quezida was that he just came back from he worked in the butcher shop. He just came back from the kitchen. So in the butcher shop, you're in the freezer, you're in the fridge, and it's cold. So people that work in the butcher shop put on a few extra layers of clothing. But also the Latin King, from what I've been shared through my buddy, their knives were plastic. So it wasn't really penetrating his clothing when they were stabbing him up. But it beat his ass though. You know, they bruised him up, blackened his eye, hit him with locks or whatever. Anyway, the situation, gets locked down. But back in the days, just 15, 20 years ago, there was no such thing as lockdowns. When you come into a penitentiary and the deuces go off, the COs who would respond contain the situation. An hour later, the compound's back to normal. And if it's not an hour later, it's the very next day. They were letting you chop each other up. They were not locking the penitentiary down. And one of the main reasons they weren't locking the penitentiary down was that back then in the USP, they had all these unicorn factories. The unicorn factories is where they make furnitures, probably stripped SUVs, Humvees. It's a real sweatshop. And when I was in Lompoc, they had a print shop, a cable shop, a sign shop. Those places where you make a deer crossing or 65 miles an hour. I was making those signs when I was in Lompoc. And those factories that was in Lompoc ran in 3 shifts of 8-hour shifts. They ran all day long. They never stopped. So the warden in those penitentiary don't ever want to place the prison on lockdown. They'll let you kill each other because they know at the end of the day, locking the prison down doesn't stop anything. It just prolongs it. So their mentality is, go ahead, get it out the way. When you guys are tired, you'll stop. Or when there's enough of you locked up, whatever, we'll ship you out. But they were not locking the penitentiary down. So the next day, when the compound opened back up, a few of the heads of the Texas EME and a few of the heads of the Latin King went and had a conversation, and they're trying to figure out what happened. And it come to find out that fool Nieta stole a necklace from one of the Latin King and sold it to the Texas EME. So the Texas EME told him, hey, well, you guys need to go deal with that thief. And the Latin Kings agreed to deal with the thief. But from the story that I've heard that was shared to me was, even though the Texas EME gave the proposition to the Latin King that they need to deal with the thief, they were just trying to rock the Latin Kings to sleep because it's war already. They have a no hands-on policy, meaning you are not allowed to touch any one of their members. And if you touch one of their members, then you have to expect a retaliation. There is no conversation that is going to stop a retaliation from happening. That's why a lot of times I don't understand where everybody has the same rules, the same laws, the same codes. But when they're their aggressor and they punish somebody and they think that the other people are afraid of them or whatever, and that peace can be called. Peace can't be called until the other side gets some blood back. So they rocked the Latin Kings to sleep, for real. They told him, hey, everything is good. You guys have till Saturday to punish this thief. But all they were doing, all the Texas EME was doing, was giving them a chance to arm up. And the shot caller at the time for the Texas EME was Koke. Now, Koke, he only had 2 years to go home. But this is the life he signed up for. And I've shared stories with you guys where there's people that only had a few months to go home. We're going home the next day. Anyway, Koke only had 2 days left to go home. 2 years left to go home. But he knew what he signed up for. And he said, hey, we're going to make an example of them. So to make an example, we're going to go kill their shot caller. At the time, in Leavenworth, the shot caller was Tony for Latin Kings. But SIS had come and picked him up. Now, there's some questions on how he got himself locked up. But the second in line is a Latin King named Panama. He was there still. So on the day of the sanction hit, Coco shows up to my homeboy's unit. He's like, hey, what room are they in? The homie's like, oh, they're up there in 306. There's about 5 or 6 of them up there. You know, the door's open, they're in there. He doesn't know what they're doing. So Coque comes with a few of their homeboys and tells the homie, run in there. You know, you're not running there to have a conversation. The homie's got a knife in his left hand. He's got a padlock in his right hand. The reason he carries the knife in his left hand is because your vital organ is over here. Now, one thing you have to understand about these people in the penitentiary, they're not freestyling. They've studied the anatomy of individuals, of your body. They know where all your vital organs are. They know techniques to subdue the opposition as fast as they can. These people educate themselves and train themselves for battle because, like I've repeated on multiple times, we are behind enemy lines. We're in a freaking box full of rival gangs, full of people that just, for some reason or another, have animosity towards each other and have no problem trying to kill each other. So he explained to me the reason he carries his knife in his left hand is so he can always protect his heart. And you know, this hand is free. I mean, you're gonna get hit over here. You got your lungs. You're not gonna be able to protect everything, but your heart is the most important thing. Anyway, so he runs in there. The guy, when he runs in, he sees Panama sitting on a stool, eating some soup with his homies sitting around him. Where he's ran there with the lock and hit dude in the head with the lock. And just started stabbing him. And while he's doing that, a few other of his brothers, Texas EME brothers, run in the cells and started stabbing up the Latin Kings. The Latin Kings were caught off guard. Like, again, I don't understand why they were caught off guard when you know this is the environment you live in and that these people that you deal with or interact with or have conflict with are just as serious as you. You know. So they're in there stabbing all the Latin Kings up. But while they're stabbing the Latin Kings up in that cell, it's popping off in every unit. Now Panama was a pretty big dude. He was able to fight his way out the cell. But while he fought his way out the cell, you know, they pursue him. And when he went down the hallway, he ran into another Texas MA who was over there stabbing him. And somehow he got away from that guy and ran into Koku. Koku wrapped him up, waited for the rest of his brothers to show up. And now there's 3 or 4 dudes on top of him just sticking him. I'm pretty sure that the Texas MA at this time outnumbered the Latin King. So there's 3 or 4 dudes on him just stabbing his body up. But the guy's a big dude and he wasn't falling to the ground. So the homie told one of his brother, cuz, to lock him in, because he still had a padlock, to lock him in his knee and drop him to his knee. So the other dude hit him in his knee with the padlock, and finally the dude dropped down and was on the ground. Now, you know, unless you've been in situations like this, it's kind of hard to understand, or maybe it's not hard to understand, but I've told you, like, when people get caught up in situations like this, they go into a trance. And if you don't really have an issue with this kind of stuff, if your body doesn't go into shock, then somehow, some way, time slows down for you. And not necessarily you're in your element, but you're in control. And because you're not panicking. If you're panicking, you're already running or whatever. But if you're in it, things slow down. And yeah, you're almost in complete control. So now they're moving this guy's body part around. Telling him, hey, hit him up here, hit him over there. They're trying to hit all the vital organs. You know, like I said, it blew up all over the yard. When the cops came to try to contain the situations, They threw their knives. They threw their knives or whatever. And what saved them from catching cases was the COs that came in. They had some that were rookies. Instead of leaving the knives where they laid and coming in later, drawing a circle around it, putting a tag on it, this one rookie went and picked up all the knives and piled them up together as evidence. Once he picked them up, no one knew who them knives belonged to or where they were at or anything, so it kind of fucked up their case. But the dude Panama, he died twice. The medics revived him, but he flatlined twice. Again, these stories I share with you is to emphasize the seriousness and the crazy environment that we are forced to live in. Yeah, us being there is definitely our own making from the decisions that we made throughout the years or whatever. But people out here in the world, I promise you, never really thought that all this crazy shit happens in there. But it does. And it's not on a weekly basis. It's not on a monthly basis. It's not a couple times a year here and there. This shit happens every single day. Welcome to the USP.